this right. I got it the wrong way. Hold on, folks. You're all being videoed. Say hi. Okay. Everyone say hi. And how would I turn this around? Anyone know this stuff?
Should be a little habit in there.
I know. That's what I thought there is. Everyone say hello. Here we go. Okay. Now we're all... Okay, now it's good. Okay. Alrighty. Good. Alrighty. Welcome, everybody. Glad everyone's back. Hope you all had a great vacation. And now that you had a little vacation, you see, the problem is, how could you ever take a vacation from studying Torah? Like, you know what I'm saying? You can never take a vacation from studying Torah. So the only way you're allowed to take a vacation from studying Torah is if you come back energized and even stronger. Like then, like you're using your vacation for a good purpose. Someone's got to really be like excited tonight. Okay, so we're excited. We all excited?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. So we're all excited. Okay. Good. Excellent. So, we are. Okay. I want you to know I had a great idea about Hanukkah. I don't know if I shared it with you, but just a fascinating insight. I think for the first time really was give clarity in my mind. But the story of Hanukkah, right, is right the story the Chashmonon, the Maccabees. What did the Maccabees do? They fought. Who did they fight? They fought the Greeks. Right. So what do we think of that? We kind of like they went to war with them, right? Okay, so they used guns and bullets and knives and whatever, etc. Or in those days they used swords and daggers and whatever. Really, in reality, the Greeks were not our enemies. What was the fight of Hanukkah about?
About the assimilated Jews.
Assimilated Jews. And so what was the fight with the assimilated Jews?
Leave things alone.
What did we want from the assimilated Jews?
Change their way.
To change their ways.
It's basically a civil war.
So it was a civil war, but fascinating. But how was this war fought with? How do you get an assimilated Jew to want to be more Jewish?
Miracle of the Candle.
Miracle of the Candle is one little piece that happened at the end, right? But what was the real war that took place? What did we want from the Jews?
It's the first one, exterminate Jews, and then they want Jews to worship their idol.
No.
Come back to Torah.
To come back to Torah. What we really want, we were fighting the assimilated Jews, was we wanted them to go and to become more involved in Judaism. Right? That was the fight. Right? That was what we were fighting over. Right? We were fighting over how many of them are going to come and are going to stop assimilating and to be more involved in their Judaism.
Oh.
Right. That was the real fight. So the essence of the fight of Hanukkah, had nothing to do with bows and arrows and swords. The essence of the fight of Hanukkah was what? Was to get Jews to care more about Judaism.
From the Maccabee side?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But from the other side...
From the Greek side, so the Greeks wanted to go, and the Greeks wanted us to go ahead and to become assimilated.
Right.
Right? Okay, right. But our fight with them was what? We wanted them to come back to Judaism.
Right.
Right? That was what we wanted. Right? We wanted to go ahead, we wanted them to go ahead and to come back to Judaism. And that's what the fight was about, right? The fight was to get the Jews to want to be more involved, right? Right. That's what we wanted, right? We wanted to hear from the Jews. Right? We wanted them to go ahead and to be more involved in the Judaism, and that was Battle of Hanukkah, which is quite fascinating because when you put it into those terms, right? The fight that we're doing today is the same exact fight as the Maccabees. Right? We're living at a time when the Jews are just leaving Judaism, right? And just checking out, right? Right? And what are we fighting for? We're fighting to say don't check out, but check in, right? Right? Become more involved, right? That's the fight, right? That's the struggle that's taking place, right? And so it's fascinating. The story of Hanukkah is, again, just the exact story of what's taking place. right? It's going ahead and just getting the Jewish people to get them to be excited about Judaism. And how do you get somebody to be excited about Judaism?
Come to your class.
Come to my class, thank you. What?
They have to learn about Torah.
You have to learn about Torah. Right? The answer is you have to learn Torah. Right? Why? Because you can't love what you don't know. Right? And if you go ahead and you learn about it, you can love it. But you got to learn about it. Right? And that's really the fight of Hanukkah. So, we celebrated the holiday. The holiday is over. It's gone. And here we are fighting the fight. Right? Right? Our job is to go ahead and to learn about Torah. Right? To go ahead and to be excited about it. And that's really the struggle that's taking place.
Last question before you leave Hanukkah. Why is that a minor holiday?
Who said it's a minor holiday?
We work.
Okay, very interesting. So, how do you define minor or major?
I would say if you work, it's a major holiday.
Okay,
If you're not allowed to work, it's a major holiday.
major holiday. So it's interesting. The holidays basically in my, from where I look at it from, fall it's either a Torah holiday or a rabbinic holiday.
Okay.
Okay, but let's sort of categorize them in those levels. Okay, and not all Torah holidays is it forbidden to work, because there are some quasi Torah holidays. For example, Rosh Chodesh, right? The first day of the new month, right? So that's a special time, right? And so it's actually a special holiday for women, right? And but that's a quasi holiday. It's not really right. We don't say in the davening, the prayers, we don't say Tachon, we say Hallel, right? And so, right, we read from the Torah. There are two rabbinic holidays. What are the two rabbinic holidays? Hanukkah and Purim. Right, Hanukkah and Purim. Right, Hanukkah and Purim were two rabbinic holidays. Right, Hanukkah and Purim, right, they were rabbinic holidays. Now, rabbinic holidays actually are interesting. The rabbis, by Purim, they actually tried to make it a no driving holiday. But guess what? People couldn't give up their cell phones. Just kidding. Okay. Right? What happened? Right? It was started off as a non-driving holiday. 2018 class number 12. Right? It started off. They tried to make it a holiday where you could not work, and what happened was that didn't stick. Okay, the Jewish people did not accept it as a holiday, as a non-driving holiday. Okay, and so therefore it did not become a non-driving holiday, and it's a holiday that you can drive on, right? But it's a rabbinic holiday. So the two rabbinic holidays really both are, and so Hanukkah and Purim. And Hanukkah doesn't seem to even try to. Okay, right? So those were the two holidays, two rabbinic holidays that they're called, the rabbinic holidays. So they're different than a Torah holiday. Okay, that's sort of how it breaks down. The word minor and major, like always, was interesting to me. Right? How you call it minor, or It's, okay, so that's sort of where it comes from. Okay, so excellent. So good. So chapter 2, verse number.
Oh, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Let's back to Hanukkah. So lighting the candles.
He said it was the last question about Hanukkah.
Yeah, his last.
Oh, his last question for the moment.
Yeah, right. So we light the candle, and what is really that mean? Lighting the candle. What is that?
What does that represent? Lighting the candle? Well, the miracle, right? The one of the miracles that took place, right, was that they came to the temple, they cleaned out the temple, they got rid of the Greek influence in the temple, and they only had enough oil to last for one day, and they lit the candelabra, and it lasted for 8 days, right? And so that's where it comes from. So, but just a little more sophistication on it, okay? Is that it seems like it's a miracle. Right. I give you that, right? Miracle, real miracle. I mean, it's a miracle that right, oil that should have lasted one day lasted 8 days. That's called a miracle, right? Clearly a miracle. But why would you make an 8-day holiday celebrating that? You know what I'm saying? Like an 8-day holiday celebrating that seems to be quite making...
Excessive.
Excessive, there we go. A little excessive. Right? You want to make a holiday, so make a one-day miracle. Make a one-day holiday. Make an 8 days holiday on it. So the real idea, and to tell you why Hanukkah is so special. When we light that candle on Hanukkah, Hanukkah was the last miracle that took place. Okay, that there was an open miracle, like the oil lasting for 8 days. Okay, last time that it took place.
The last miracle ever.
But again, it's funny because how you define a miracle, but certainly a miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days. It's the last holiday that we have.
Okay.
Okay, it was 200 years ago, and a while ago, right? You know what I'm saying? It's a miracle that took place a long time ago. And what God is saying to us, can you imagine a couple that's about to leave each other for a long time? And what do? The last night that they're together, pretty emotional, right? Emotional, right? It's amazing. And what do? They give each other a special gift. He might give her a ring. She might give him a ring. Right? Something to remember by. It says, whenever you have this, right? Whenever you take this reminds you, right? This reminds you of my love for you. And so how much is that ring worth? Priceless, right? It's right. It's beyond, right? It's right. There's no value to that ring. That ring, it's priceless, right? It's priceless. God says to the Jewish people, Hanukkah happens in the time of the darkest time of the year, right? The darkest time of the year, right? You look outside, right? It usually comes out around the winter solstice, right? It's the darkest time of the year. And God says to us, as you embark on the exile, right? And the exile meaning that understand that God says the first 2,000 years of the world were void and desolate. The second 2,000 years was Torah. And the third 2,000 years is the time of the coming of Mashiach. And really what that means is the first 2,000 years are called void and desolate because there was no Torah in the world. The second 2,000 years was from Abraham on. Right? Abraham recognizes God in the year 2000. The last 2,000 years, the coming of Mashiach, that's the time, during the time of Torah, right? The middle 2,000 years, we were living in the fast lane as the Jewish people. Everything was great. God was doing all these miracles, right? We lived in miraculous times. It was just a time of just amazing, great stuff going on, right? The last 2,000 years, God says to us, it's easy to love me when I give you everything. But maybe you only love me because of all the things that I give you. Right? Maybe it's only the things that I give you that make you love me. How do I know that you love me for who I am or what I am? Not for what I give you. So the last 2,000 years is called the coming of Mashiach. It's a time of exile. It's time when it's a royal pain in the drain to be a Jew. Right? And everyone hates us. Everyone's trying to go get the Jews. It's always the Jewish people's fault. Right? You look around the world and you ever hear the sign, somebody hung up a sign, God, maybe it's time to choose somebody else. Right? And so what happens is it's a time of darkness. It's a time of exile. And God says to the Jewish people, do you still love me? And so God says, but in order for you to remember that I love you, and in order to remember that me and you have that special relationship, in the darkest time of the year, at the darkest time, I want you to light a candle. And when that candle burns, you'll understand that that's me saying I am with you even in the most darkest times. Even when everything seems ain't working, it's not going the way I planned it, right? The world is not ending on, right? My life is not ending on my storybook ending, right? And what am I saying? And we're saying, God says, I'm still with you even then. And what's our job? To love God, even as we go through it. And that then is the idea of the coming of Mashiach. That's when the whole world recognizes that God is God. And then the whole world recognizes, and we recognize, that God is our God, and He's there with us, even in the most darkest and most turbulent times of our life, that God is still with me.
That doesn't have to happen suddenly. It can happen over a period of time.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the world is getting there. Slowly doing that.
Right. Slowly come to the recognition that without God we're all toast. Right? And so,
We're all toast without
right? And so it's right, it's an amazing idea. And when we light those candles, you know what we're supposed to do? When we light the candle, light the Hanukkah candle,
Look at it.
just look at it. And what are you supposed to think when we look at it?
You recognize the Spirit of God.
You recognize the Spirit of God, that God is there with us. In the deepest, darkest times. And that's what you're doing when you light your candles. Right? That's the essence of the holiday of Hanukkah. Right? And what it is that it carries us through. And what happens right after the holiday of Hanukkah? The days begin getting longer, and the night begins getting shorter. And we go from Hanukkah, what's the next holiday up? Purim. Right? What happens on Purim?
March.
Right, we have Tu B'Shvat, another minor holiday. Right, which will be next month. And then a month after Tu B'Shvat is Purim. Right? And what happens on Purim?
We celebrate.
We celebrate the redemption of the Jewish people. Right? Jewish people go back and build the temple.
We get to drink.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's just an amazing thing. Right? And then what happens right after Purim? Pesach. Right? Which is the time of our redemption. Right? And that's what God says. When it's bottoming out, when things can't get any darker, we look at the candle, and what do we remember? God is there with us. And God's taking care of us. There's a great poem that you ought to read. It's called Footsteps in the Sand. And it's an amazing story. So I'll tell you this poem of the Footsteps in the Sand. I don't say it as eloquently as it's written in the poem, but you can find the poem. But it basically talks about where a person has a dream, and he's walking in the sand. And what happens is, he and God are walking on the seashore. Two sets of footprints. And he notices that every time of his life, as he's walking along the seashore, when the going gets tough, right? There's only one set of footprints. Mm-hmm. So he goes ahead, and he comes to the end of the road in the dream, and he meets God. And God says, "Oh, it's so nice to see you." And God says, "It's lovely seeing you." He says, "Do you have any questions for me?" He says, "I actually do."
Yeah, here it is, right here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right? Footsteps in the pen. Okay.
You gotta make it bigger so you read.
Yeah, okay, yeah. One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with God. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to God. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned God about it. God, he said, that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times of my life, there is only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you the most, you would leave me. God replied, "My precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you." Right? Right? Amazing story,
Yeah.
right? That's the holiday of Hanukkah, right? You look at the candle, and what you do is, God says, "I'm carrying you." Right? That's right. That's right. That's what Hanukkah is about, right? And that's our job, right? You know, we're here in this world to create a relationship with God. That's why we're here. That's why God put us here. Right? And so everything that happens in our life is meant as a way, as a vehicle to help us create a closer relationship with God.
That's true.
Right? That's what happens. And that's how the world is created. Right? And it's our job, right, to use it as an opportunity. The problem is that most of the time we get so overwhelmed, right, we forget to use it as an opportunity, right? And then we look back and say, oh man, blown opportunity. Now the good part about life is that if you don't like the test that God has given you, don't worry about it. Just wait, you'll get it again. Right? And that's how life works. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of events, right? God going there to keep on helping us grow higher and higher and closer to Him. Right? So we can either be smart enough and use it, and the more we don't like a test, by the way, the faster you pass it, the faster you move on. Right? But that's really what it's about. Right? It's about getting to the place where you can go ahead and where you could become, right, closer and closer to God. That's what the world is all about. Hanukkah, when we light the candelabra, and we light our menorah, right, we're lighting the light that says, God says, I'm here. Love you. Right? And it's right, that's the right, and in fact it's interesting. When you walk into any synagogue in the world, what's in the front of the synagogue?
This is a
No, in front of the synagogue, no? No, well, there's the Torah.
near Tamid.
And right by the Torah is the Ner Tamid, the light. You know where that light comes from?
That was the menorah in the temple.
Hmm?
It was from the menorah in
Menorah in the temple.
Yeah.
Right, but what about the menorah in the temple?
There was one light that they kept.
It was one of the 7 branches of the menorah that got the same amount of oil as all the other branches,
But it never went out.
but it never went out.
Was it the middle one?
It depends. It depends. There's a question whether the menorah was north-south or east-west.
I see.
If it was north-south, then it was the middle. Then it was the middle one. If it was east-west, and here was east, right, east-west, and here being the Holy of Holies with the Ark. So then the Ner Maravi, the western candle, was the second candle in, because the one all the way in the east was called Ner Mizrach, and the second one was called Ner Maravi, the western one. And so then it was that second one. So that's a question, depending the menorah stood this way or stood this way. Okay, that's all it was. And that lighting was God saying, I'm here. Right? And when you light your candle on your menorah, you're bringing that light into your home. Right? And that's what you're lighting. Right? You're lighting that light from the menorah. Right? That's what's taking place.
Well, Rabbi, you remember you at the study, you made a remark that broadly definition of publicize the miracle, and then, but when we in the celebration, they just give a credit to Maccabees. They don't mention, the credit is not going to God mostly. They say, oh, Maccabee won. How they won?
No, but we say, we start off on the miracles, right, and on the salvation that you did in those days, right, on the pork verse, and the strength, and on the saving that you did for our forefathers in those days at this time, right. So we're talking about God, and that's how we started off with, right, and that we're saying it's all God, and that's what Hanukkah is. the time of taking that light and moving forward, right? And kind of just, right, moving forward, knowing that God is there with us, taking care of us. Chapter 2, verse number 8.
Hashem God.
Right, we talked about the creation of man, right? Right, we did. Okay, so to chapter 2, verse number 9. Okay,
Number 9 or number 8?
verse number 8. Bottom line in page number 11. Isaac, you want to read?
Hashem God planted a garden in Eden to the east, and he placed there the man whom he had formed. And Hashem God caused to sprout from the ground every tree that was pleasing to the sight and good for food. Also the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and bad.
Okay, so where does God place man?
In the garden.
In the Garden of Eden. Right, there's a place of man, right? In the Garden of Eden, right? That's where God goes and places man. What's in the Garden of Eden?
Everything man
Everything you
needs.
need.
Everything man needs. What's everything that man needs?
Food.
Ask you a question.
Vegetables.
How many trees were in the Garden of Eden?
Not many. Originally, you mean? Before man prayed for
No. Before man prayed, how many trees were in the garden?
2.
None.
Really?
Yeah. Man was introduced to a garden that was barren. Why was man put in a garden that was barren?
So we could ask.
Right? So he would pray.
Yeah.
Right? Right? Because man walked into a garden lush and fertile, what would happen?
You wouldn't want to pray.
We'd forget about God.
Right, yeah.
Right? So, right?
But
He
man
gave
was
it to
new
me.
to the world. What is he praying for?
He's praying for food.
Well, but you know about. What is he asking? Give me a banana. Give me a.
And no, this is very good. So man was created. He was downloaded. I would say he had a little chip inserted into his mind, right? He was like, right? He came fully loaded. Okay, Windows and all. I know Windows. Okay, maybe Linux. Whatever it was.
It was an
He-
apple.
What?
It was an apple.
was not an apple, right? So, right. So he came in fully loaded. So he knew. He looked around and it was barren, dirt on the ground. Why was it barren? So man can ask for it, which is a fascinating idea, by the way. Why do we pray?
To get stuff.
To get stuff. Okay, that is maybe why you pray. Why should you pray?
To honor God.
To create a relationship with God. So what does God do to help you remember to pray?
He makes it tough.
He makes you have needs. Okay? Makes you have needs. If you don't have any needs, God hates you.
No.
Okay. If you don't have any needs, you have to work doubly hard. Right? Because what happens? Because then what happens? We forget that we need God. So what does God do?
It gives us a little stress.
He gives us just a little stress. Not stress, because we create stress.
No, but it gives us.
He gives us needs.
This is an incentive.
He gives us an incentive, but he reminds us that we need Him. And how do we get about getting that?
We pray.
We pray. Now, who decides how much stress goes into it?
We do.
And why are we stressing?
Because we know
We don't trust God that He's going to deliver on what we need.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Oh, let me repeat that. So why do we have stress?
Because we don't trust God that He's going to take care of us.
Say that again.
Because
We have stress because we don't trust God that He's going to take care of us.
We doubt His love.
We doubt God. My friends, could we ever doubt God?
Not really.
What's your punishment when you doubt God? Stress. Ooh, stress! Right, you got it? You get it? You get it? Your own punishment, right, is that you're stressed.
Yeah, because you're doubting.
Because you're doubting God.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? How much does God love you?
In
more than we can ever know. That,
That's
More
what I
than we
tell my
deserve.
that's for sure. But not even more than we deserve. We can't even fathom how much God loves us. There's no way, I mean, you know what the closest thing we could get to it is?
Love of a
The
child.
love of a child. Right? How much we love our children? More than they can ever know.
I love them to pieces.
Right? Wait till you, right there, remember as a kid, what did your parents always tell you? Right? I love you more than you'll ever know.
Exactly.
Right? And what did we say?
Sure.
Sure. Right? That's exactly what we said. We said, and I'm just doing it for your good. Ooh, that was always a good line.
I love that one.
Right? I love that one. Right? But what does God say? That's exactly what God says. Right? I love you more than you'll ever know. Right? I love you, right? More than you'll ever know.
There was some graffiti, I forget written at which death camp, that said, if there is a God, we'll have to beg for my forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. At the end of our life on this world, when we pass on to the other side, and we meet God, God's going to give us a chance to ask all the questions we have. By the time we get to our 5th, 10th, 20th, 50th question, we're going to be embarrassed to ask any more questions. You want to know why?
Why?
Because every answer that God is going to give us, we're going to feel like idiots for even asking the question. I'll give you an example. Okay? I'm going to give you an example. Okay? Give you an example. Your toe is hurting. Painfully so. You come upstairs to God and you say, God, why did you make my toe hurt? Right? God says, well, if you wouldn't stand on your toe, it wouldn't hurt. And you're going to look down and you see you're standing on your own toe. And who did you blame?
God.
And who was standing on their own toe?
I was.
Right? So you're going to be embarrassed in that you blame God for that, right? And every question that we ask, the answer is going to be the same. Right? Just right, plug in your question, plug in the answer, and it will be the same exact answer. Right? You should know. Okay? Before you were created, any of us were created, God went ahead and God showed us our entire life. Our entire life flashed in front of our eyes. And we had a chance to change anything that would happen in our life.
And I was too stupid to do it?
No. You were too smart to change anything. Because you recognized that everything that happened was for your benefit. As a soul.
I had a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I could train the dog nicely or harshly.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog could learn either way. Even I could learn nicely, as thick as my head is right here. I could learn nicely. I don't need the 2x4 with the nails in it to whack me in the head.
Mm-hmm.
That's you.
No. The answer is, we all feel that way. Right? I feel that way. Right? And yet, you think God wants me to be in pain?
You must.
No. God loves us. God is compassionate. God is caring. We'll have questions, right? But there are answers. And that's and really and getting that what's the question, what's the answer? And really and boiling it down and really distilling it. We'll see where we get to, and what we do, and because I'll explain to you something fascinating. Right? Does anyone here know how long they're going to live for?
How long
Does anyone
ago?
know how long we're going to live for?
No.
No. Okay. Does anyone know how long we should live for?
No.
No.
Does anyone know how long we would like to live for?
Yes.
No.
Forever, right?
No.
And so it's very fascinating. You know, the Talmud says it was a place that God blessed that place that people never died. And then when they got old and tired of living, they would take a walk outside the city and they would die. But in that city, they were protected that they never died. You know, it's interesting, right? So that's okay. Okay. So, on what definition, or on what basis, is it determined how long we live and how long we die?
God determines that.
Based on
Our mission in life.
our mission in life.
We want the box seat.
It's based on our mission in life, right? Now let me ask you a question. Does anybody know when they've completed their mission in life?
No.
No.
Right? So therefore, we're around as long, right? We're around as long as we need to accomplish our mission in life. The only problem is we don't know what our mission in life is. And I'll give you an example. Everyone in this room, most probably, 99%, right? 99.999, whatever, has been here before. We've been here before.
Yeah.
What you mean in the class?
In the world.
Oh,
in this life.
In the world. You're back in for a second, third, fourth time. Right? It's, they call the
Till we
biggest,
get it right.
the biggest loser. Right? And we're here now until we get it right. Right? That's our job now, right? And when you get to a place of where, right? Until we get it right. So we don't know what our soul has done in previous lives. And what causes us to be back here in this world again.
We do know we chose to come back.
Right, we chose to come back, right? But when we're born, right? Do you ever see the bump over your lip?
Yeah.
You know why you had that bump over your lip?
You got touched you, you lost your memory.
So that's with the angel. There's an angel
Touches you.
whose job is when you're born,
It's to your race.
right? Is to right. What is the baby doing inside its mother's womb?
Torah.
Back
Learning
straight.
Torah. Right, learning Torah.
Goes back straight.
The dead man float. Right? Floating around. Right? Floating around. Interesting, just parenthetically, just a little side note. Right, this past week's Torah portion, what were the name of the two midwives that ran the operation of the Jewish people? Shifra and Pua. You know why her name was Shifra? And who was Shifra and Pua?
Moses.
Moses is Miriam, Yocheved and Miriam. Moses' mother's sister, right? Why was she called Shifra?
You have
We
it?
learned about that.
What? So she's called Shifra. So Rashi says because she was mishaper es eladim. She went and she beautified the children when they were born. She didn't just have them born. She went and she beautified them. And Pua was called Pua because she used to like poo, like used to like quiet the children.
A gentle voice.
All right. So Dovia actually came over to me and told me there's an Ibn Ezra, I think one of the commentators on the Chumash, that says, you know why she was called Shifra? Because sometimes a baby would be born and it wouldn't be breathing. So the word Shifra comes from the idea that she would put in a like straw down their throat and blow, and they would begin to breathe. First intubation. Interesting. Right? So, and as we're born, as the baby is being born, what happens? It gets, right, it's learning the whole Torah while it's in its mother's womb. Right? The angel taps it on the lip over here, and we forget everything that we learned.
It's a delete button.
It's a delete button.
Okay.
That's why it's actually interesting. That's why
That's
the baby comes into the world
Very good.
crying. Why? Because it went from a world of clarity to a world of confusion.
That's for sure.
Right? One second it knew everything.
Would that be every baby?
Yeah.
Every
Why-
religion.
Then
Yeah.
why they would learn the Torah?
That's a great question. So if God was going to delete the button, so why were they learning Torah?
They want
Establish,
that back.
What?
They want it back.
establish the pathways.
Very good.
What?
It's establish the pathways.
The pathway
It's so
that it'll be easier.
when you hear it again,
You'll know it's right.
you know it's the truth.
Wow.
That's why we learned it the first time. But if we came into the world knowing everything, we'd be miserable failures. Right? Because we knew everything, right? For us to grow in learning, and it would be very hard for us to do.
So we learn the Torah in the womb because even though it's deleted later, unconsciously it will pop up to.
Yeah, so right, so when you hear Torah, you're gonna go, oh,
no.
I heard this before. I don't remember where. Yeah, I know where. Right? You ready?
It will second it.
Right. You've already learned it. Actually, there was a story in Israel, probably 30 years ago. So it was a baby that was born that the angel missed,
Really?
How can we?
and he came out talking Torah.
Is it possible for angels? to
I'm
miss?
telling you a story. I'm telling you like what happened.
According to Rashi.
What happened to the baby?
So what happened was, they went. So a bunch of rabbis came to talk to the baby and learning, right? Because they had, it's the different, asking questions. Is it you read the word like this or like that, right? And then he was telling, it was just straight from the thing. Finally, they took him to the Amshanav Rebbe.
What?
The Amshanav Rebbe.
That doesn't help me.
Amshanav is the name of a Hasidic.
Oh.
And there's a great rabbi who lived in Bayit Vegan in Jerusalem. It was called Amshanav. Very interesting Hasidic group. But they went to the Amshanav. The kid was born in Bayit Vegan. And where he was, and they went to him. And he went ahead. And he did some hokey pokey. He touched the baby over here. And the baby became a normal baby. He got everything.
Why would
Wow.
you do that?
Why would he do that?
Yeah, there
The
was
same reason why
something
God does it in every baby that's born. Right? Because we have a mission to accomplish in life, and he can't accomplish it. Knowing everything, that would not be good for them.
So this rabbi corrected God or corrected the angel.
Corrected the angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the surrogate for the angel.
Right. So now,
Amshanava.
I think he's passed away. I think now his son is the head of the Hasidic, of that group of people. But it's very fascinating because what happens is we all come here with a history that we don't know. But everything that we're going through is exactly what we need. Okay? And so therefore, the question, we ask the wrong question. Because the question we ask is, why, right? Why is it happening, right? Right? Why me, right? Why is it happening to me?
So we should ask, why do we need it?
Very good. The question is, what am I supposed to learn? Right? What's the message? Right? That's the question. Because God doesn't make mistakes. I promise you. He's got it right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
God makes no mistakes. Right? So rule number 2 is
See rule number one.
say rule number 1. Right? And so it's our and we understand that we're limited in capacity. Right? Nobody here will argue that we know everything. Right? We know in the world of souls we know nothing, for sure. In this world, heck, we hardly know anything. In the world of souls, for sure, we don't know. Right? So that's the real question.
Wasn't Noah a mistake that time? Wasn't Sodom and Gomorrah a mistake?
Absolutely not. They were all lessons that we learned from till today, or we should be learning from till today. You can't be Sodom and Gomorrah and expect nothing to happen. Right? When you're living in a world of degenerate people, become a Noah. Build an ark.
Go
By
to
the way,
Mars.
you should know. You know what an ark was symbolic for? A yeshiva. Right? Right? When the world is in turbulent times, where do you run to?
Shiva.
You run to the ark. You run to the place of Torah study. Right? And many, many lessons. I'll tell you something fascinating. You want to hear something? One of the greatest lines. I want to say it to you because the more I repeat it, the more I remember it. The Torah is not a book of man understanding of God. It's a book of anthropology. It's God's study of man.
Why would God need to study man if he knows everything?
God doesn't need to study man. God is trying to help man ace the test. So what does God do?
Gives you an instruction.
He gives you an instruction book. What's that instruction book?
Torah.
The Torah. And how does God convey these stories for mankind to learn? Through the Torah. Right? Through the stories of the Torah. Right? And these stories happen, and we, as mankind, have to be smart enough to learn for those stories. Because Ziggy, very famous fellow,
Yeah.
you all heard of Ziggy?
Yes,
The cartoon character with little one hair standing on his head. Ziggy says, why does history always repeat itself?
Because we failed to learn.
And we failed to learn it the first time. Right? And that's what it is. Right? It's very simple. And the Torah is very clear on how the world is supposed to run. And it's very clear what our responsibilities are. And sometimes we forget. And then what happens? Chaos. And who do we blame? God. And why do we blame God?
Because we don't accept responsibility.
Excellent. And what's this whole world about?
You don't need to blame yourself.
Okay, folks, everyone cry for a minute. I give you 1 minute for a chance of wallowing in self-pity, and that's it. And time to move on. Stop blaming God.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what happens, right? And that's the story of the Torah, by the way. The story. Who are the great people in the Torah? Who are the great people?
People that question God.
No.
Like who?
Abraham.
I did not question God. How does God refer to Abraham?
My beloved.
My beloved. Abraham is called the beloved of God. Did Abraham sin?
Yes.
Sure. Who else was a great person out there? Jacob. Isaac. Abraham. Moses. Aaron. Joseph. We got plenty of heroes.
David.
Sarah. Rebecca. Right? Plenty of heroes.
Leah, Rachel.
And what were all those people? What did they do?
They were devoted to God.
And they rose above themselves. Right? They rose above themselves. Those who those people were. Right? They're the people. Abraham walked in front of God. Noah wasn't as righteous as Abraham. Noah only walked with God. Now again, he was living in the time of the terrible degenerates, right? That lived at that point in time were horrible people, right? Horrible people, right? So again, but for his time, he was amazing. Compared to Abraham, he wouldn't have been as great. But if he lived in Abraham's time, he could be maybe even greater than Abraham.
Was the world then better or worse than it is now?
That's a good question. We're a race to the bottom, right? And it's interesting, you know. It's it probably depends where in the world you are. Man, what in the world? I mean, it's, you know, the world's a big place, right? We have some benefits. We have some things that are worse.
It's a mix.
It's a mix. And
Because there's a lot of righteousness going on too.
correct. And that's our choice. We could choose to be righteous, and we choose to be wicked, right? Or to say it another way, we could choose to take responsibility, or we can choose to pass the buck. Right? Right? But don't blame God. Because I promise you, as much as something hurts you, it hurts God more. Remember you ever tell that to your kid? I'm going to smack you, but it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you? I remember that's one of my sisters. My sister said to my father, so, okay, so then don't hit me. Right? Very simple. Right? Very simple. Very simple idea. Right? If we're in pain, God's in even more pain. And I'll tell you a little secret. When you pray, and you pray for your own pain, pray for God's pain too.
Pray for what?
God's pain.
God's good?
God's pain.
Oh, pain. Okay.
Right? Because if it's hurting you, it for sure is hurting him. Right? That's what's happening. If it's hurting you, for sure it's hurting him.
So why he goes through it?
Because we need it.
So he suffers with us.
Right? Suffers more than us. Right? But it's for our benefit. So God puts man in the garden, and what's in the garden?
It's barren.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Why is it desolate?
Because he needs to pray.
Ask for it.
No, who needs to pray?
God, the man,
No, because man needs to pray.
man needs to pray.
Man, if everything was there, he would forget to pray. Which is fascinating. So why does God create needs?
So we can ask for what we need.
We can ask what we need. For the relationship, let me ask you a question. If we create the relationship, so do we have needs so we'll pray? Or do we pray so we'll have needs?
Do we pray so we'll have needs?
What's the cause and what's the effect?
We have a need, so we're praying.
We'll have a need. Right? We have the cause is we need to pray. Therefore, God will make us have a need. Right? So we'll pray.
Isn't that a sadistic approach?
Sadistic?
Yeah. God wants us to suffer so we could love him?
No. Why are we here in this world?
To improve our soul.
Have a relationship with God.
To have a relationship with God. Let me ask you a question. So let's say God gave us everything. But because of that, we don't seek a relationship with him. Is that good for us or is that bad for us?
Yeah.
So what's good for us?
Praying.
No, it's all good. So what's good for us?
Having a
In
relationship.
a relationship with God.
Creating the relationship with God. The problem is, if God gives us the good things, then what do?
We stop praying.
We ignore it. So we it's like we force God into doing this
To remind us.
to give us a joke to get it.
So when we pray, we get good things. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe they're not perceived as good, but they're good for us.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
everything is always good for our benefit.
Yeah.
Now, when we pray, what happens is that creates us closer to God, and therefore what we need changes.
Okay, but we get what we need.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's
if
funny.
we don't feel we need anything, then we don't pray, right?
Right.
So, isn't there a little bit of discipline involved?
Sure.
I mean, don't you have to say,
You-
well, it's time to get up and daven?
Yeah, for sure. So we need to discipline ourselves to learn how to create that relationship. Sure.
Because sometimes you just don't feel like you need anything, you know?
Right,
But you still get up and do it.
Right, sure. Yeah.
When God takes someone away, do I blame myself because he wanted to wake me up? And he wanted to wake me up and he took somebody away?
No. So when God takes somebody away, so we say that person has completed their mission in this world.
I don't understand that.
Okay, well, how long are we here for? So I'll put in the terminology. Nobody knows how long we're here for, right? And so we're here but God put us in this world to create for our mission, right? We have a purpose. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you just a simple question. Where is our soul before we are created?
Within the group.
With God.
Yeah.
And then we come down to this world. So is coming down to this world a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
No.
No, you want to stay?
Why is it a good thing? You're going away from God.
No, it's a good thing because you can only improve in this world. You can't improve.
Well, in the other world, with God, we don't need improvement.
Oh. So why are we created?
God needs a toy.
Boy, you're
No.
a great guy.
The answer
I
is-
just wanted to say that.
Yeah, we're the proverbial gerbil in the cage, right? We think
Yes.
we're going to pull it down, it's going to be something different. Okay, gerbil, listen up. I always wanted to say that. Okay, so listen up. We're only sent down into this world. This world has only one plus over the world being with God. There's only one plus. And that plus is
Improve our relationship.
free will, that we could choose to improve our relationship. Right? In the world to come, right, or the world in the past, right, which are the same. There's no free will. Right? Right? You have a relationship with God, it's a world of clarity, it's a world of moral truth, right? Is there ever going to be an issue of you're going to do what God wants you to do?
Are you going to pray in the world to come?
Of course, what do you do all day?
Pray all day.
Actually, you're right. You pray and you learn Torah. You sit there in class, and God's the teacher. Just amazing. Right? The world to come is the most amazing experience. And each second is another like bombshell. And you're just sitting in your mind is just fritzing out. Right? From the incredible revelations, the more knowledge you gain of God. Pretty cool place. The problem is that, it's the way the example I always use, I try to use like is a stadium. God's at home plate. Now, some people, live in the upper decks. Some people live in reserve seating. Some people live in the lower decks. Some people in the bleachers.
And some people aren't in the stadium.
And some people are outside the stadium. Some people get the skyboxes. And some people get Jerry's perch. I don't say that in Dallas. Right? 50-yard line. Right? Elevator straight to your suite. Right? All the food you want. Now let's say you're like me. I used to go to ball games as a kid. I didn't know there was anything else besides bleachers. Just seats. $4, $6, you got into the seat stadium. There weren't even seats, right? It was just little just as benches, right?
Who'd you see?
The Yankees.
You're a Yankee fan?
I'm a Yankee fan.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to tell you stories. Those were war days because my father was dyed in the wool Red Sox fan.
no,
Was it a mixed marriage?
Oh my gosh, my mother wasn't into baseball, but at least I don't remember being into baseball. But we used to go to Yankee Stadium. I mean, we used to go like in the '70s, like when the old pennant races, like the season was always decided in September between the Yankees and the Red Sox. There's a Reggie Jackson, Craig Nettles, Greg Nettles, just like those were Ryan Kidry, and those were the days. And we always used to go there in middle of September. And the stadium, the game would start. The national anthem would stand, and then all of a sudden, quiet down for the first pitch. The stadium would be silent. And my father would stand up and say, "Go Red Sox!" And you could hear him across the stadium.
Did you hear him?
Across the stadium. And I'd be sitting there, pissing in my pants. Like they say, "Dad, we're going to be lynched. Sit down." These were okay. So anyway, say Yankee Stadium. I say, where do bleachers right there? Okay.
Yeah, but those people had good humor in those days.
The Yankees fans didn't have that's right. Yankee fans were not that. And when you started drinking a couple beers, the humor got a little sour.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy going. I was petrified. I was like really worried for my life.
Yeah, really. Okay.
And
Pick another father.
and so what happened was right. And so when you're sitting in the upper decks in the bleachers, and you want to sit in the skyboxes, they're in the world to come. It's a nice place, but you want those skyboxes. You go to God and say, "Listen, God, I really like the seat I have. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying it, but I really want to get the skybox. I want to get the full flavor of the game."
Good, I'll send you back.
So God says, "Great, not a problem." He says, "I'll have to send you down to this world, right, to the physical world, and you'll have to live a life and make choices. And then those choices that you make, right, you make good choices, you'll get a better seat when you come back."
Isn't there just one heaven?
There is.
So there's not a
Actually, there's
bad
7
neighborhood in
heavens,
heaven.
but they're better seats and worse seats.
So you can sit on one end of the table or on the other end.
That's right. The different seating arrangements.
So you're either on the dark side or
No. So right, and so God says, but before you go back, I just want to show you what's going to go on, and you could just sign off on everything that's going to happen to you, so you know what takes place.
I didn't read it right.
He had a lawyer with you, right? And that's what happens, and then we come back down.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how if you're making it too simple, maybe you have to. But there's other people that you interact with in life that can really do a number on you.
They can, if you let them.
And you just see the world in a different side of you. And what you visually perspective or perceived it. Then the pain of everyday life and plus the extra.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a ball game.
So the answer is you could when you lose focus, right? When you're not engaged in what you need to be engaged in, absolutely, your mind's out of the game, you lose.
But it's not with you; it's with the other person.
Now, let me tell you something. Nobody could do anything to you. People, okay. Everyone makes their choices with who interacts with them, or not with who interacts with them, but how we interact with them.
They change,
and they can change, and you change, right? And that we always control is ourselves. Let me ask you a question. Do you ever get angry?
Mm-hmm.
You know what happens when I didn't ask you. No, I knew that already. You know what happens when you get angry?
lose control.
No, God leads.
But more than that, forget about God leaving. Even worse. You know what happens when you get angry?
You lose your judgment.
You're no longer a human being.
Yeah, you're an animal.
And that's what happens. Right? We get angry, right? We lose, right? Right? Meaning, I explain to you why, because we have to make free will decisions, right? Right? Human beings, right? We have moral decisions. That's what makes us human. We get to make moral choices, right? When you get angry, you make decisions?
No.
No.
Or if you do, they're wrong.
Right? But what happens is at that point in time, you lose who you are.
You're making it seem like you're the only real person in the whole world.
I am.
Well,
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not. No, but what I am is the only person who I control is myself. I do not control anybody else.
and with those people,
Right? What?
Not
It's very important. We don't control other people. The only thing we can control are our own actions.
Most of the time.
I mean, people might listen to us, but
No,
that's
we
their
can
choice.
control ourselves most
Most
of
of
the
the
time.
time,
Yeah.
hopefully, unless we lose it. Right? And the more times we get angry, ask Norm, he'll tell you to you.
And these
You
people who
lose.
these people who have influence with people that you have relationships with.
Listen, the world's a complicated place. So then, but now becomes what do you control? Let's start off with that. What is in your box? Right? What do I control?
My feelings.
Okay, or not even my feelings, because we actually
My reaction to them.
my reaction to it. You see,
Yes.
we should control our feelings.
Yeah, but
Some
I
people don't control
my
their feelings
reaction to them.
and let their feelings control them,
Yes, exactly.
which is not good.
And no one can control your feelings.
Nobody can
unless
control-
you allow them to.
Exactly. Right. And then, and so at that point in time, I control my feelings. I control who I am. I control what I do. Right? If I let somebody else control them, right? So then I'm losing who I am.
Is it possible that anger to a certain extent could be a defense mechanism?
Absolutely. Of course it is. Somebody got angry at me.
So,
I told them something that they got angry at me. So I said to them, let me ask you a question. Are you angry at what you did? Are you angry because I pointed out to you what you did? Or are you angry at me and blaming me for what you did? I said, those are the three options you have on why you're angry.
Clearly, he's blaming you for what he did.
Right. It was a she. Right? Okay, right? And the answer was C. She was blaming me
for what she's done.
for what she's done. And I said to her, I said, I'm sorry. I said, did I help you make that decision? Did I tell you to make that decision? Why are you blaming me?
Did you ask me?
I said, I'll tell you why you're blaming me.
Because you know that you're at fault.
Right. And it's much easier to be angry and not come face to face with that than to answer it. I just saw somebody posted on my Facebook page. You know what the word baby means?
What?
Blame anybody but yourself.
So in which way you would say that, in what perspective anger could be considered as a healthy feeling?
I don't think there's any use. Actually, that's not true. Let me tell you something. That's a good question. The Talmud says,
Protect yourself, defend yourself.
No.
Okay.
Every attribute could be used for good. It could be used for bad, right? There are good ways to use it, there are bad ways to use it.
Even anger.
Right? There's a middle ground of everything. Right? Kindness, you'd be overweight in kindness, but sometimes kindness isn't a kindness, right? If you're giving something to somebody that's misusing it, that's not kindness anymore. That could be a way to use it. Anger is one of those things that is supposed to be used so sparingly. Carefully, almost like never. Right? There are exceptions. But there are exceptions. Right? And so far to the extent, right, that where's a proper way of anger?
Physical danger, somebody attacks you.
No, that's not anger. Anger might be in place somebody who desecrates God's name. It might be a place to maybe use anger. But otherwise, never.
Anger is a human part of human feelings.
Correct. And do you control your feelings, or do your feelings control you?
At the moment, depends on the moment.
Very good. Very good. Now let me tell you something. There's a great book to read. It's 3 pages long. Not even 3 pages. 3 pages in big print.
Rambam's letter.
Absolutely. Nachmanides' letter for the ages. You got to read it.
I sent it to all my sons. And me.
And it's an amazing letter.
Try to read it as much as I can.
Shma b'ni musar avicha. V'al titoish taresi mecha. Listen, my son, for the rebuke of your father, and don't forget the Torah of your mother. Tisnaheg tamid ledaber benachas in kol habriyos. Train yourself to speak gently with all people. Shebezet hinatzam min hakas. Because by always speaking gently, you will save yourself from anger. Shehi mida gerua mikol hamidos. It is the worst attribute of all attributes.
Right. The hardest to conquer and the
And
most
with that,
destructive. Yeah.
you will save yourself from going to hell.
It's the most destructive.
That's the beginning of the That's the first 2 lines of the letter.
It's the most destructive.
It is. It's. I'm trying to do. It used to be over here. We used to have a book on it. It's a thin little book. It's called The Letter for the Ages. It really is a.
I have it here.
Yeah, you can find it online. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to go ahead and
So
to
it's the most destructive attribute.
the most destructive
It
attribute.
destroys everything.
Yeah, sure.
It's terrible and hardest to conquer.
Yeah.
That's why it's so
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah. That's it. It destroys everything.
Yeah.
And worst of all, it makes you non-human.
Right. You lose.
Right, because you lose control. You can't make a free will decision. So not only did they take whatever they took from you when you're upset at them, you lose your free will. They took away you let them take away your humanity.
Your reasoning. Your
Right. They're driving you into a place of even worse. Right. So don't let them do that. Right. Don't let them do that. Right. Don't let them do that. The God puts man in the Garden of Eden, and He creates in it all the trees in the world. First, blank, right? It's empty so that they will pray. I don't think we need to read again, but right? It puts it into an empty garden. Why was it an empty garden?
So they'll pray.
They'll pray. And what would any normal person say? Do you know how long it takes to plant a tree? Right? And when it rains, it's going to come down. Like, how are you going to have food ready to eat? You're going to starve to death.
But that's the miracle of the garden.
The what?
That's the miracle of the
That what?
miracle.
What's the miracle?
That it's there now. I mean, when you pray, it materializes.
Amazing. Because what did I teach you? What did Adam just teach you? God will always take care of you.
It gets repeated to us so many
times.
We're like so hard at it.
Right? God will always take care of you. And so what did Adam do? He prayed. He said, God, I need some food. And what does God say?
Okay.
Bevakasha. Please. And what happens? What materializes?
The fruit trees.
How many fruit trees?
Many.
A lot of them.
Millions! Can I ask you a question? How many fruit trees could Adam eat from already?
1, 2, 3.
Me, 4 or 5. Okay, but how many fruit trees can Adam eat from already?
He's 183 feet tall, right? So
Yeah.
he ate from a lot of fruit trees.
He can.
Yeah.
And how big were the trees?
Well, they were a little shorter than
No?
him.
What is it?
I mean, how tall was he?
Adam was created originally and in a state of perfection. Lama said they were 100 cubits tall.
Which means
Until he sinned. It means 100 means is a perfect number.
it's awesome.
So it meant that it was created in his fullness. And then when he sinned, he shrunk. Right? God, honey, I shrunk the kids, right? God, because his spiritual status became, he destroyed his spiritual status.
So how tall
So
he
his
was
physical status became
in
destroyed.
our measurement, how tall he was.
It says 100 cubits.
What is that in feet?
And it's roughly 200 feet.
22 inches of the cube.
210 feet.
210 feet.
Really? You take the back because you mean. No.
Last time I
No,
compared-
175 feet.
Yeah.
175 feet, sorry. It's 22 inches times 100, so it's
Last time I
2200
did the
inches.
course, it was
Divided by 12.
183 feet.
Yeah,
And
183
then he
feet.
shrunk immediately,
And then when he sinned, he shrunk.
dramatically.
Dramatically.
It's
Yeah.
like-
Sure.
Can
But hold on, forget about it.
5'8".
Don't get caught up on this.
Yeah.
So he created a garden and he gave man millions of trees to eat from. Why did he give him millions of trees to eat from?
So we could choose?
Because when God takes care of us,
Yeah, it really takes.
he really takes care of us.
He's not stingy.
No. He gave us all the fruits. Laid them all out for Adam. Not just of what we needed, way more than what we needed. God was so kind. And the Torah tells us about 2 trees. What 2 trees did he create?
A tree of life and a tree of knowledge.
Tree of life and a tree of knowledge.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Aha. Tree of life. What was that for?
Torah.
What was it for?
Study.
So we could live forever.
Yeah.
And what was the tree of knowledge?
So we could understand the difference between right, truth and falsehood.
Okay.
That originally it was truth and falsehood, but we made it into the tree of knowledge between good and evil. Because that we weren't ready to receive it.
Okay. Hold on. So God creates 2 trees, 2 special trees. Now can I ask you all a question? When God created Adam, how long was he supposed to live for?
Ever.
Forever.
Forever. So did he need a tree of life?
No.
Yes.
Obviously.
Because he became a human and he needed a relationship with God. And the tree of life is the Torah.
No, so hold it.
That's a
Right,
good
right, okay,
question.
good. But remember, he was going to live forever.
He
Right?
could
So,
have eaten from that one.
what?
It was he could have eaten from
He could have eaten from that one.
Before he
Before he sinned.
stopped at the
So very good. Good. Now we're getting to my point. He could have eaten from that, right? Not a problem to eat from it. He was going to live forever. Right? So the tree of life he could eat from.
183 feet.
183 feet, okay.
Adam was?
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't Adam. He's
No,
supposed to man.
183.33. Don't forget the
Yeah,
point. 33. Okay.
Right. It's 183.33 feet.
Yeah, okay.
He couldn't fit in the cave.
Yeah,
Buried.
that's so like this. So he creates a tree of life. So what is a tree of life symbolic of?
Torah.
Torah, right? What did you say? Okay, Taylor. Tree of life is Torah. The Torah. Right? That's what the tree of life is for. Torah. And why is the tree of life called? Why is Torah called the tree of life?
Because it's like having a brain without a mind if you don't have it. Torah gives you.
How do we know the
pleasure.
Torah is called the tree of life? Other than I told you, which is always a good answer. But how do we know the Torah is called the tree of life?
It's called that's Chaim here, isn't it? Eitz Chaim. Where's
Can I ask you a question? What do we sing when we put the Torah back into the ark?
It's fine.
Eitz Chaim hi. למחזיקים בו ותומכך מיושר Tiracheho. Tachenoam. Yehoho nusivo yiseho. Shalai. What does that mean? Eitz Chaim Hi. It is a tree of life. Lama chazikim ba, to those who grasp onto it. V'tomecheha mi'ushar, those who support it shall become wealthy. Its ways are ways of pleasantry, and all its paths are peace. Why do we sing that when we put the Torah away?
Hopefully we'll follow it.
Because what is the tree of life? The tree of life is the Torah. We say Eitz Chaim Hi, that's the tree of life, that's the tree of Torah. Right? So we see, right, there are verses that show us that the tree of life means Torah. What is the tree of knowledge of good and bad?
Choices, yeah.
Well, what is the tree of knowledge? What knowledge is it talking about?
Science.
Science, art,
music. Yeah.
math.
Yeah.
Tree of knowledge. Can I ask you all a question? Why can't you eat from the tree of knowledge?
Because it's lifeless.
Without the tree of life connected to it, like without eating from the Torah, quote unquote, our new tree of life, and that, or because I mean we do eat from knowledge. I mean we do, you know, if the tree of knowledge is
Maybe that's why we're all messed up.
true, maybe the combination of both.
Okay.
Because it's automatic, and he wants you to work. He wants you to work and make decisions, not eat fruit and be automatically educated.
Okay.
Because
without
knowledge
the
by
tree
itself
of
is
life,
lifeless.
Without the tree of life first, you don't understand the positive ways to use the knowledge.
So let me ask you a little question. You go ahead.
Maybe we're not supposed to, so God sets us up to make choices.
Good. Okay. So that's one simplistic reason, because otherwise you wouldn't have free will. What are you making free will about? But you can't eat. You eat everything.
Is there about right and wrong, or about truth
And false.
and false?
So it's like this.
So,
God created the tree of knowledge because someday we were going to be able to eat from the tree of knowledge. When were we going to be able to eat from the tree of knowledge?
Shabbos.
When Shabbat came.
That's right.
Man was created when?
On Friday.
On Friday. And what was man's job to do on Friday?
Friday.
Get ready for Shabbos. But don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Eat from the tree of life.
the tree of life, and they did exactly opposite.
And what's the reason? The reason is as follows. If we were to eat first from the tree of knowledge, math, science, art, music, is that good stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we know how to use it?
No.
No.
What teaches us how to use it?
Torah.
So what happens is God says, I'm going to put you in the garden. And I'm going to give you 2 trees. But make sure you eat them in the right order.
Yeah.
Because if you eat them in the wrong order, you are killing yourself.
So if you would have eaten from the tree of life before the tree of knowledge, you could have eaten that.
And he would have waited until Shabbat comes. Because what is Shabbat is, it's a taste of
heaven.
that world to come. It's a taste of the world to come. So comes Shabbat, then we would have gone straight into the Messianic era.
Yes.
And we'd have understood how to use the tree of knowledge.
We went
And at that point in time, it would have been fine to eat from the tree of knowledge. But what mankind does is he first eats from the tree of knowledge.
So if they would have done
So why couldn't he then eat from the tree of life?
He didn't follow God's commandment.
Because if you would have eaten from the tree of life, after he ate from the tree of knowledge, what would he have done to the tree of life? What would he have done to the Torah? He would have taken the Torah to fit his understanding of the tree of knowledge.
Oh, very good.
Right? He would have taken his understanding of the world, and he would have colored what he reads in the Torah.
Is that like that story of the guy, they talk about the guy in the forest that puts the bullseye and then puts a circle around it afterwards?
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy to hit the bullseye every time when you paint the bullseye after you shot the arrow.
Right. And it hit
Right?
the tree.
Right? And they tell the story, right? The guy's walking through the forest and he sees all these arrows and all these trees, and there's a bull. He's like the center of the bullseye, each one. And he's saying, wow, this is amazing. Dude, this guard. And then he finally catches up to him and he sees him shooting the arrow into the tree and then painting the bullseye around it. And it's easy to hit the bullseye every time.
So when we try to fit science to Torah, we usually get it wrong.
And then so when we take science and we try to make Torah match science, it's wrong. When we take, our job is to take Torah, learn Torah,
Yeah.
and then we could understand
Science.
or we understand what we're supposed to do with science, right? And how science is supposed to be used.
Because there is no science without morality. If it's
Right, correct. Right.
So
And it's
what we do today is we try to have Torah fit science.
right, which is the
It's
wrong way.
Backwards.
It's
way
backwards,
of doing it.
right? And that's
Because we put the knowledge ahead of Torah.
and that's why we have two special trees in the garden: the tree of life and the tree of knowledge.
That's why today so many moral questions when it comes to medicine.
Sure.
Because they still cannot get it right. Make sure that it doesn't collude with it doesn't collide with the
clash.
moral aspect, clash with the
Right.
moral aspect.
Sure.
Is it permissible or not? Just
Sure.
because it can be done doesn't mean it's right to be done.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
the consequences.
We were at my house Friday night. We had a whole long discussion about it.
You did?
Yeah, a whole long discussion about it. Right? Well, what is right? Where right? What
When
is
do you pull the plug?
right? All this type of stuff. Right? It's the Torah. Remember, it's Torah first, the tree of life. Then we go to the tree of knowledge. Right? That's the order, and how you have to do it. You do the order any other way, you're leading yourself up to tremendous failure.
So the way this
Wait. And what?
It's because of that some people that has a knowledge of the science, it's hard for them to recognize the existence of God and God power.
Yes, because they become too wrapped up in their science. I mean, do you want to hear a fascinating line? You want to hear a fascinating line what the Mishnah says? Great. It says the best doctors are going to go to hell.
It's a sad.
It's a sad thing. So they said, why the best doctors?
They think they're God.
Well, all doctors think. But why the best doctors? Because the best doctors see how wonderful the body is, so they don't think they need God. Right? The smarter they are, the worse they make it for themselves. Right? And instead of recognizing that it all comes from God, and that it's all God all the time, right? Instead of doing that, we get ourselves all messed up. Right? That's what takes place.
I want to clarify something.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to eat from either tree.
No, that's incorrect.
Oh.
Okay, we were allowed to eat from the tree of knowledge. Excuse me, we're allowed to eat from the tree of life. We could not eat from the tree of knowledge at that point in time. Shabbat, they were created on Friday morning. If they would have made it until Shabbat and first eaten from the tree of life, they then at that point in time would have been allowed to eat from the tree of knowledge as well. But they had to make it till Shabbat.
In the same evening, both trees, first tree of life and then tree of knowledge.
Breakfast was a tree of life. Lunch was a tree of life. Dinner was a tree of knowledge. Right? That should have been the correct order. So even though the Torah points out two special trees, right? It points out the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Only the tree of knowledge was the one that we could not eat yet.
He wanted us to wait for Shabbos.
Yeah.
So, because they got it mixed up, we've been suffering all these years.
Correct.
And they lost their immortality.
Correct.
If they would have done it in the right order, they would have lived forever.
Correct.
So can we fix it?
Yes, absolutely. How do we fix it?
Studying Torah. But it's after the event.
Correct. So that's our job. Our job is to rectify their sin. We'll see, because in chapter 3 we get into this, but it's amazing how you see how we actually rectify the sin. It's amazing things what we do, right? For example, women, right? It's a fascinating thing, right? Women seem to have become the ones that make the challah for Shabbat, right?
Right.
Like in the Torah, it doesn't seem to point out that women should do it more than men, yet that seems to be the woman's job. Do you know why a woman puts out the challah on Shabbos? Brings it to her husband?
No. He's too lazy to get up.
Not only on Shabbos.
That might be true.
But that's not only Shabbos.
Thank you. Kenny pointed out quite rightly, that's every day. Because you know, by the way, what was the tree of life? What was the tree of knowledge?
Was it?
What was the tree of knowledge?
It was a bread tree. Challah tree.
Tree of life was called.
6.
Tree of knowledge was challah, was bread.
So on Friday night, the woman brings you the bread from the tree of knowledge.
Why? Because that's when you could eat it. And who fed man from the tree of knowledge? Women did.
You gotta back this one up.
Okay.
What is bread?
Bread. Okay. The tree of knowledge is not just symbolic of Torah and of sciences, right? And of knowledge. These are actually types
bread of life. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay. The tree of knowledge was a bread tree. The Talmud has the Talmud has 4 opinions what that tree was.
Some of the wheat tree.
Some say some of the wheat tree. Some say a grape. Some says a fig, and some says a esrog.
No one says apple?
No, nobody says apple except the Christians.
Okay.
So
a bread tree.
certainly was not an apple. Okay, right. So you go ahead. So you have those 4 trees.
So the woman brings the bread.
Why does the woman bring her husband the bread?
Because she was the one that tempted him.
Because she's in the Garden of Eden. The woman fed her husband from the forbidden bread tree.
But now it's okay.
Now it's okay because it's Shabbat. And so she makes sure that the challah is kosher. And she separated challah from it. And then she brings it to her husband to rectify the sin of woman in the Garden of Eden. Is that unbelievable?
That's good.
You follow me, right? You follow what's taking place. Right? And so she's rectifying this.
But Rabbi.
Yes.
Many. But
I'm surprised you could talk even after you just heard that idea. Like you should be so dumbfounded.
At the time, God tells Adam not to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge. That the order was given just to Adam. If it was not there, why we blame? Most people blame it.
Okay. You continue reading. That is incorrect. Totally incorrect, my friend. Let me ask you a question. Where was Eve before she was created?
She was part of Adam.
She was part of Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you mean she didn't hear God say it?
People forgot that part.
Okay. I'm just reading the story. You have to help me out here. Because to me, that's what it seems that the story goes.
So now I have information I can find them back.
Okay, so. right. I just point that out. Very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always seemed like a contradiction to me how one part of the Torah is taking self-responsibility for yourself and your own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But yet the whole time, Adam is constantly blaming Eve, saying it's the woman you dated. You know,
Woo!
Eve, you know.
And man gets toasted because he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
It's totally a lack of responsibility. That's the whole story in the Garden of Eden is one long story of lack of responsibility and passing the buck. Both sides, by the way.
so does Mrs. Epstein serve you the challah because of Eve's mistake? Or because she's accepting the blame when Adam said
Neither.
it was Eve's fault?
She's not accepting the blame. It's not her fault. She didn't do anything wrong. Right? But every woman in this world has a piece of that is a piece of that soul from Eve, right? Every male has a soul from Adam, right? So now, not Mrs. Epstein the present, right? But that soul way back to Eve, right, did something to take away honor from heaven.
So she's re-honoring.
She's re-honoring God, rectifying the mistake that her soul had made from way back when, right? And bringing the world to perfection. Because as soon as we perfect it, then that's it, the Messiah can come.
The bullshitting.
So it's not, you see, it's not blame. There's nothing to be blamed, right? What your soul did in the past life is your soul's problem. That's why your soul is back here in this world. Now we happen to each house our soul, right? That did that stuff, right? So now our soul is rectifying those mistakes that it made.
Is that why we have two challahs? Two souls?
Do we have so? The two challahs come from Shomer v'Zachar because the two aspects of Shabbos, right? The celebrating the Shabbat and the not desecrating the Shabbat.
That's why we have to have two challahs.
That's why we have two challahs.
For Shabbos.
Right. It's also the symbolic of husband and wife. And there's some very fascinating ideas there. It's interesting. You know why we braid the challah?
Because God braided her hair.
Because
When
God
He brought her to.
When God created Eve,
Yeah.
He braided her hair and brought her to man, that she should look beautiful for her husband. So we braid our challahs to remind us that that's what God did.
So she was very tall too. To be
Yeah, sure. They both were, because they were both spiritually perfection.
Very beautiful, two very beautiful people.
Yeah. They were the most beautiful people ever to walk the earth. They don't get counted in the beauty contest, by the way. Right? The Talmud says the four most beautiful women in the world, and Eve is not mentioned. You know why Eve isn't mentioned?
No, why?
Because God made her. Of course, she's the most beautiful thing. Right? It's after God made her, right? So you can't count that.
So who are the four?
The matriarch.
No. Interesting, not the matriarch. And one of them is Sarah is one of them.
Sarah,
Bathsheba,
No,
Esther,
Abigail, Esther.
Abigail.
Yeah, Abigail, David's
Yeah.
wife.
Wait, what? His what? Oh.
His wife.
Yeah.
Abigail.
That's his fourth wife or something.
Right.
So
Right. They were the foremost. So Tosa said, well, why don't you count
Sarah,
Why?
Abigail.
Sarah, Abigail, Esther.
And joy.
Good.
Yes.
Joy.
Oh, yeah. You're in good shape.
Very PC of you.
Look at that. Okay. You see, you're rectifying your mistakes. That's very good. I think it might be Rachel. I'll take a look. It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara Megillah.
I think you're right about Rachel.
Somebody get me Gemara Megillah. Foremost beautiful in the world. Okay, it's right. The Talmud's right behind you, Mel. I'm not looking at you.
Megillah.
you want it, Rabbi?
Megillah, and see if you get it. Okay, I find it. Okay, after class we'll go find it. Don't worry about it. Okay, but anyway, my foremost. So Tosa says, well, hey, wait a second. What about Eve? Right? Because she says Eve was so beautiful that Sarah compared to Eve was like a monkey to a human, and yet she's not counted in the four. And Talmud says she doesn't get counted because God made her.
That goes without saying.
It goes with that. She was right. It was talking about people that get born by human beings.
Megillah isn't in.
No, not the track that you go. Tract of Megillah, it's like page 9a on the top. This Taisus over there, whatever it is.
So that's
Okay, whatever.
It's in the Talmud. It's in the Talmud.
It's in the Talmud. So anyway, so that's right. So that kind of is where it's at.
2 trees.
So 2 trees:
2 trees.
tree of knowledge,
True.
tree of life, right? Tree
If
of
only they would have done it in the right order, everything would
everybody will be fine, right? Everything will be fine. It'll be amazing. Millions of trees to choose from, right? That's God creates it. That's what happens. Yeah.
Do we speculate, or do you, what the world would be like if they didn't make this mistake?
Yeah, the Talmud says. The Talmud says they wanted to make it. They would have made Friday. They would have gotten to Shabbat. Would have gone straight to the world to come. That's exactly what happened. We would have gone straight into the world to come.
So then they
And
do-
all the souls that would have been corrected.
And everything would have been corrected.
Yeah.
And the world would have gone straight into perfection, which is why God made it that they sinned.
This way God made it.
That they should sin.
They were going to do it beforehand. He knew that.
He knew they were going to do it. So why did he create the world when he knew they were going to sin?
According to the Zohar, there are 613 souls of the first man.
There's 600
Why?
first man.
Why? Let me explain to you something. Why did God want them to sin?
He didn't want them to sin.
I mean, he knew they were going to sin, and he created the
He
world.
knew they were going to sin because he knows the past, the present, and the future.
Correct. It all happened at the same time. So why did he create it that they sinned? Why didn't he just create they didn't sin?
To have free will to become
Why?
closer to God.
Why did God create the world?
For man.
For man.
He wanted to be a giver.
Giver.
God wanted to be a giver. And if God wanted to be a giver, so if the world were going straight into the Garden of Eden, there's no world. So he creates this around, so there's a lot to give to.
Okay, so the Zohar says because the human soul shut down and would not receive. Because it received the knowledge of what it would be like to love, to give, to share, to earn. And it couldn't do those things. It could only receive, so then it shut down.
Then it's
And so God created the human. He created this world so that the soul could get rid of its bread of shame
right. And how does the soul do that?
by living Torah.
And how does it give back to God?
Give the man.
How does it get back to God?
Yeah.
By
We don't want to be. Who's that? Mitzvahs, commandments.
mitzvahs.
By us doing commandments, we become givers to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Givers to God, right? Right? When we do commandments, we become givers to God.
613.
613 mitzvahs. And that way we remove the bread of shame. Because that way we're no longer just takers, we're givers too. Right?
So God knew that they're going to sin. And actually, was he hoping that they're going to sin, or he was hoping that they're going to do it right?
He knew it. He had the
He
script.
knew. He doesn't make mistakes. He knows everything.
Right.
He wrote the
So it was
screenplay.
predestined for them to sin.
Right. There's a world. So now we're able to give to God by doing the commandments.
I got a dumb question about giving that I've been dying to ask, and I figured I'd just ask it now real quick. If I'm going to, now this isn't a technically a commandment, I don't think, but let's say I'm going to the gas station, filling up my tank on the way home, and there's a guy outside, he's like, can I have some cash? And I give him money. I'm just saying, let's say he really needed it, maybe he didn't really need it, but let's say I did it in the right spirit. Let's say he's not, maybe not a Jew, maybe he's a Gentile, who knows, right?
Is it a mitzvah?
Is that a mitzvah?
So
Or
he-
no, is it, no?
No, well,
It's not technically a commandment.
no, sure, there's many give charity.
Well, I know, but to give to certain, but like, does it necessarily? But yeah, that's where I'm confused because there's
Okay,
some-
no.
what's-
So,
what
the
happens
answer is what's the best way to do it is those people really need it, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot more discussion that goes into it.
just
What the
sort of-
proper way to give it is.
But that wouldn't be
Yes.
an automatic mitzvah.
Well, usually being kind is always a
It
good
is.
thing.
Okay.
It's always a good thing. Right? We're supposed to be kind. Now again, but you have to make sure that it's not hurting them because sometimes people are kind, and so then it just keeps their behavior going.
Yeah, and
Enables them.
Enables
Except then whether you
to
enable
do
it or
that,
not.
or, yeah,
But therefore, so it gets a bit more complicated, you know.
It's better to give to a charity.
And no, to give it somebody who
Yeah, because
whatever, who goes ahead and
It's on both sides. There's charity, you know. Some charities, then they don't use the money for the
right,
right purpose.
meaning you're giving away $1 or $2, right? So therefore, so I don't get hooked up on that, you know, I don't get caught up in that,
I
right?
was just asking in general.
Right. No. Just in general, you
person
you want to give, you want to make sure that you're giving
Right.
in a more
he
structured,
may
intelligent
accumulate
way.
the dollars during the day and go buy some heroin.
Right,
You
whatever.
don't know what he's going to do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so God creates these trees, puts them in the garden, gives them the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, and the other trees, the knowledge of good and bad. Okay?
Yes.
What does it mean, the knowledge of good and bad?
Science
Sign, yeah.
and Torah.
Why is that called good and bad?
Because you can without Torah, you can rationalize anything.
Well, it's good and bad because it could be used for good, it could be used for bad, right? I mean, right? And there's many different ways to use it.
It's not the truth and false. The truth and false belongs to the tree of life.
And tree of life, right? It's Torah, right?
Well, it would have been the tree of truth and falsehood if they had ate from the tree of life first and waited for 6 hours until Shabbat. But so it could have been the tree of knowledge of truth and falsehood. But because they ate of it in the wrong order, it became the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Alrighty, folks, it's that time of night. Thank you all for coming. We're just warming up. Just want to welcome back. We're so glad you all are here. And we look forward to seeing you. Same bad time, same bad station. Classes are on. Time to learn.